Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, The Job Seeker's Playbook from Application to Promotion. Today, you'll learn important tips and tricks from our expert, Melissa Smith, as well as have the opportunity to ask questions live via the chat box. Melissa Smith serves as the Vice President of Liberty Home Mortgage, one of the fastest growing mortgage lenders in the United States. Melissa began her professional career working for the U.S. Army, where she learned key leadership skills that have helped elevate her in her career. Melissa works diligently in setting up strategic direction for her company and believes that ingenuity, communication, and teamwork are all keys to success. While focusing on providing an excellent customer experience, Melissa strives to exceed her colleagues' expectations and to earn their respect. Now let's take a look at the jobs report. It showed a considerable strength and improvement over April with 559,000 jobs added into the economy, but that's creating a new dynamic. Right now, there are more job postings than there are job searchers, and this unbalanced recovery continues. New shortages of workers in different segments are creating high demand and a frenzied labor market. As you may be in this category yourself, more than 44% of those actively looking are looking to return to the workforce in a remote position. And still others are choosing to leave their roles, particularly in hospitality and food service, in search of higher paying warehouse or logistics positions. So this new normal in the workforce is presenting many with an opportunity to rethink careers, segments, and what's important to them when they re-enter the workplace. So before we jump into the main event, wanted to tell you a little bit more about Advance and how you know us in your local markets. Advance's mission is to strengthen and empower the communities we serve. And here are some of the operating companies, as well as our major investments that you're probably familiar with. We're also hyperlocal with 24 newspapers, 9 #1 news and information websites, and the 3rd largest online news organization nationally with 700 awards for our journalism excellence. We have the #1 reach in every market we serve, and our publications have been in their respective communities for over 175 years. And here are just some of the newspapers that you interact with every day and some of the names you're most familiar with. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Melissa Smith. She and I have been working together what feels like for all of COVID. So Melissa, welcome back. The floor is yours, and do your thing.
Thank you so much, Eric. I appreciate it. So like Eric said, I started out my career in the Army. I was actually a contractor working in Army recruiting, and I was a commander's assistant. So I worked with multiple different commanders, learned a lot of different leadership skills. After that, I decided to make a change in my career and get into the mortgage industry. And I started in the mortgage industry in 2011. So I'm 10 years in, and I got into this industry and had no clue how to do anything. And I've worked my way up to being a vice president in 10 years. So I feel like I've got some skills that I can provide to everyone, and some tips and tricks of how to get there. So we can go ahead and start my slideshow, and I'll help you guys get to where you want to be. So the first thing that we're seeing a lot of right now is, because of COVID, a lot of employers aren't bringing you into the office. So they're doing a lot of the virtual interviews with Zoom and Microsoft Teams. So there's, some different challenges that you have to overcome with that. So what you want to do is make sure, first and foremost, test your equipment. Make sure your speakers are working. Make sure your internet's connected. Make sure your camera's working. You don't want to get into an interview and all of a sudden you look like you don't know what you're doing. Set the scene in the background. The last thing you want is for an employer to see your bed unmade and a laundry basket full of dirty laundry. It says something about you as a person. So, make sure that you have a very, clean, neat, not too much clutter in the background. You want them focused on just you. Another thing that you can do is be ready to answer those common interview questions. There's lots of different ways to interview. I personally don't like to use the common interview questions because I want to get to know you. I don't want rehearsed, typical questions, but they're going to ask you a lot of things like, why are you interested in this role? What do you know about our company? Tell me some of your biggest strengths and weaknesses. What would you consider one of your biggest professional achievements? Tell me about a challenge that you dealt with in the workplace and how you overcame that challenge. What are you looking for in a new position? Why are you leaving your current role? So these are a lot of the typical things that you're going to see. And if you Google it, you will find a list of thousands of typical interview questions. And you want to get yourself prepared for those types of questions because you don't want to look like you're not prepared. Next slide. And so during the interview, this is your time to shine. So you want to practice your responses, go over those typical questions, but you don't want to memorize those because you don't want to sound robotic. You want to sound like you're prepared. You know those answers. You know the answers to those questions. You've got it down. You don't need to sound robotic about it. You didn't memorize every single thing. Monitor your body language. You don't want to be sitting with your arms crossed. You want to seem engaged. If they're explaining something, you want to seem like you're paying attention. You want to be engaged with them. So make sure you're paying attention to that body language because it says so much about you. Dress for the role. If you're entering a super corporate work environment, you want to dress for that. Even though you're on a Zoom call, you still want to look the part. Maybe from the waist down, you're not, but from the waist up, you need to be wearing that suit, wearing, the dress attire. And then make that connection. Employers want you to be yourself. They want to know about you. They want to see if you've got the right vibes to fit their company. So share a personal story, tell them about your hobbies, tell them what you like to do in your spare time, talk about your family, talk about your kids. Those are all things that I always go for. That's my number one thing when I start interviewing someone is I don't want to make someone super uncomfortable with those typical questions. I want to know, what do you do in your spare time? What do you enjoy doing? How many kids do you have? How old are you? What are your interests? What drives you as a person? Because I feel like you can learn so much about someone from just those things. I was interviewing someone just last week, and she told me that her and her husband like to do home improvement projects. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so interesting. Did you go to school for that? How did you get into that? And she told me that they never had any formal training on that they just go on YouTube and watch videos of how to do home improvement projects. And that seems so silly that it's not a big deal. But what that told me about her is that she is a self-starter. She will go above and beyond to learn things, and she'll find her own ways to learn them. And she's not afraid to fail. So it's just little things like that build that connection and tell your story. So don't be afraid to have a personality. People want to enjoy working with the person that they hire. So be yourself. Next slide. So another huge important thing is a lot of people, they go to their interviews, they, give it 110%. They get the job, and then they get in there and they realize, you know what, this just isn't for me. I don't enjoy this atmosphere. I don't like the drive. I don't feel like I have any opportunities here. I'm just going to be stuck in this job. So not only is the interview for the interviewer to find out about you, to see if you're a good candidate, but you also need to see if this is a good fit for you. This might not be the correct company for you. So ask questions. It's okay. They expect it. I look forward to questions. So I put a list here of a couple of questions that I've received, and these are good. You can Google and find some others if these don't fit for you. But one of the questions I've gotten is, can you tell me about the company's culture? Culture is so important. Is there room for future growth? Because some jobs that you're applying for, that might be it. They might not have any management positions available. They might prefer to hire from outside of the company. So those are good questions to ask. Ask what kind of challenges you're going to face in that role. You want to know what the difficulties are going to be and if it's something that you can handle. Ask if they promote from within the organization. I always think that it's such a good thing to see that an organization recognizes how good their employees are and wants to replace them and move them up. So I think that's a great question to ask. Ask them to talk a little bit about the departments that you're going to be working with, because most jobs, it's not just you doing that one job. You're going to be working with multiple other people, multiple other departments, and kind of get a feel for what that's going to look like. What do you like best about working at the company? There's no better person to ask than the person that's interviewing you. What do you love about your company? Is it the people? Is it the culture? Is it the work hours? The amount of overtime that you're forced to work? Who knows what it's going to be, but they're the best person to ask that question to. Another question is, what are some tips to being successful if chosen for the position? So, when I bring somebody in, I hope that they're looking for that answer. What are the goals that I need to reach quickly? What are you looking for me to achieve by month 1, by month 3, by month 6? Like, what are you expecting from me? Next slide. So once you get that job, you need to try to grow. I think most people are looking to get promoted and, develop themselves professionally. So there's a lot of different things that you can do to get to the next level. So one of the things that you need to do is always seek opportunities to grow and learn. So when I started in this industry, I knew absolutely nothing, not a single thing. I sat at a tiny little desk in a brick corner wall, and I did paperwork. And once I got through all of my paperwork, I went on and I learned the person next to me's job and I helped them with theirs. And then once I got that mastered, I moved on to the next thing. And I kept moving from department to department, learning different jobs, not asking for more money. I did not ask for more money because this was growth for myself. So I did everything I could to learn every job around me, so that when it came down to it and they needed someone to run the whole branch, it was me, because I knew how to do every job. So it opened up a lot of opportunities for me. Be a problem solver. There's nothing worse than being a manager or running a team and having someone that's constantly coming to you with issue after issue after issue. Go try to solve those problems on your own. No one's ever going to be upset with you for trying, for going forth and putting that effort in and trying to get to the answer on your own. And when you can't, then you go involve management. But otherwise, try to solve that problem on your own. Track your performance. Most companies will do that, but if they're not, do it on your own. You have to set standards for yourself. You need to set those goals, set dates, achievement markers, whatever you can to hold yourself accountable. And then once you get to that, then you need to try to exceed that. You always want to be striving to do better than what you already are. And I'm a personally very competitive person. So I set markers slightly above the person next to me because I want to be the best always. And I think that that's what a lot of managers look for, obviously respectfully of the people around you, but you want to try to be better than everybody else because that's what sets you apart. And then request meetings with your managers. So I've actually had some of my very young employees come to me and they wanted to have a meeting. And I was like, oh, what's this about? And they just wanted to know, how am I doing? Is there room for growth? Do you see something that I could be doing to improve what I'm working on, or improve my department, or improve myself? And that always really impresses me because they're not waiting for someone to come and tell them they're not doing a good job. They want to make sure that they're meeting and exceeding my expectations. And that's a really, really big deal. I mean, asking for feedback and seeking that constant improvement in yourself, it not only demonstrates the humility in yourself, but also your ability to grow and develop yourself as an employee. And that is such a big deal. That's what you're looking for in leaders, always. Next slide. So ultimately, that's leading to how to get a promotion. So number one, you have to build your skills. You have to master your job and as many other roles as you possibly can. Know as much knowledge as you can get under your belt. That's huge because that's what every organization needs. They need people that know all of the jobs and are excellent at doing those. Put in the time. I have a lot of people that I'll give them an opportunity to go do an additional job or learn another role. I'll add some things to their plate, and they're immediately asking, well, am I going to get a raise? Is there more pay that comes along with this? The people that stand out to me are the employees that are ready and willing to do any job that I ask them to, and they don't ever ask if there's additional compensation for them. They're willing to put in that time and effort and show me what they're made of. I want to see, can you even execute this job? I don't know if you're going to be any good at it. So go do the job, prove yourself first. Always prove yourself first. The money will come after. Updating your signature block with a new promotion, new label, that all comes after you put in your time and effort. But just wait to ask. But once you get there, go ahead. Once you've been doing that job for a while and you see a new opportunity, or you've heard, rumors around the office that they're looking for a manager, go ask, because sometimes they're just waiting for that person to say like, hey, I'm really interested in growing with the company. I'd love to manage a department. If you guys are looking to promote someone, maybe you'd think of me for that position. And that is completely fine. Maybe you're not ready and they tell you that, but then also that's an opportunity for them to tell you what you need to do to get to that level. So don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to suggest yourself for a position, or just put it in their face that you want to move up, because that makes a huge difference. It makes so many opportunities open up for you, especially in a growing company. And that's all I have. So if you guys have questions, I'm happy to answer.
And we do have some questions. Okay, let's start with this one. My problem is I've only been able to get a handful of interviews in the past couple of years. Why might that be? So essentially doesn't get to the interview phase of the job. What sort of things should they be on the lookout for, Melissa?
Honestly, I would say if you're putting in a lot of resumes and applications and you're not hearing back, you might need to be reaching out more. Give them a call. The squeaky wheel gets attention. So if you are constantly reaching out to that company, letting them know that you're still interested, letting them know that you're still there and you're still looking, that actually kind of stands out. We hired someone that we had interviewed probably a year prior to actually hiring him. And every couple months, he'd be reaching out to us, letting us know like, hey, do you guys have any available openings? I'm still looking. I still would really, really like to work for your company. And finally, after about a year, he called at the right time and we were hiring and we brought him in, and he's probably one of our top 6 employees right now as far as being involved in financials, and he's a go-to person. And we overlooked him for a year before we finally picked him up. So keep at it. Don't give up. Just keep pushing.
Which leads us to another question that ties right into that. So should I send thank you letters or emails? What's the protocol now? So what was he doing to get your attention for 12 months? What were those touch points looking like?
Yeah, so he would call, he would email, he would send text messages to the owner of the company, which it worked. It did. But any way that you can find to communicate, I would always do a thank you email. Those always impress me, because you would be surprised how many people don't reach back out and, follow up and say thank you for your time. So those little things, they really do stand out, especially in the market today. I would always reach back out.
Okay, this one might be a little bit of a curveball because I'm not actually sure how I would answer this one either, but I recently ghosted an employee and would like to apply again. Any advice on how to restart that conversation?
I'll be honest with you. I wouldn't hire you. That's a big no-no. If you've got an interview scheduled, you have to show up. And if you can't make it, you need to cancel, because what you just told them is that you don't respect their time. So if it were me as an employee or an employer, I wouldn't even give you a chance for a second interview. Honestly, I would say move on to the next company that you didn't ghost.
All right. This one comes up a lot when we do these job webinars, and it's How do I answer the behavioral question when they ask you for a time that you didn't succeed, which is usually where the applicant kind of gets tripped up because they're not really sure how much to share. How do they stay authentic in this story without looking like a weakness? Like, how do you approach that?
I mean, I think that that's also, it's kind of, I hate those kind of questions because I feel like they're just kind of ridiculous. But if someone were to ask me something like that, I would probably make up a story. Oh, I was trying to complete a project and I was working so hard on it that I felt like I didn't involve my team members enough. And, so it's still showing that you demonstrated a lot of good work ethic, but you didn't demonstrate the team atmosphere as much as what they would want you to, but you recognize it. So you're still kind of covering the bases
Sure.
of, I worked really hard, didn't include my team members, but I realized it. So that's something that I use to, rebuild myself and make sure that next time going forward that doesn't happen.
Awesome. So we got one more question, then we'll let you go for the day. I got an offer for a job I applied for a while ago, but already accepted another position with a different company. How would you navigate through that? There's nothing in the question that says whether or not the past job is better than the current job, but just you've got two competing things here. How do you make it so the one that comes out late feels like you didn't ghost them? I think is kind of the crux of that question.
Yeah, I mean, I think that most employers are really understanding. So if you received another offer and it's better, I think that any company that doesn't understand that and wish you the best is probably not somewhere you would want to work anyways. But I think just explaining to them that you received a better offer and you've decided to take that, I think as long as you're communicating that to them, there shouldn't be any hard feelings there. So I would just make sure that you let them know, you received that better offer. You really appreciate their time and you really appreciate the offer that they've given you, but you've decided to go another route. And I truly don't think that you'll have any pushback from that.
Awesome. Melissa, thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful rest of the week and a weekend, and we will talk to you again soon.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You got it. Guys, remember to visit our online job fairs where you'll find companies currently hiring in your local markets. And on those pages, you'll see that if you scroll down to the Job Seekers resource, there's an area with great tips and information about that job search. And if you need somebody to professionally update your resume, please follow the link for a promotional value from our great partners at getinterviews.com. They've been helping folks with a professional resume and even managing your LinkedIn profile for years. And now they're offering a special price for our job fair participants. And also on our job fairs page, you'll find that in all of our markets, our partners at LeafGuard are hiring. And what a great company. Check out your local job fair online to connect with LeafGuard and figure out some great opportunities for sales, marketing, and for installers. So if you fall into any of those categories, go see our friends at LeafGuard. And there you'll find some past webinars for free advice that will highlight how to spruce up that Zoom interview and how to stand out in a crowd. All of those resources are waiting for you guys. All right, that is it, my friends. You are free to go. Thank you so much for your time today. It is always a pleasure to get to sit and hear from an expert and get through that job search. As always, if you need anything from us, our contact information is in the slides that you're looking at right now. Have a wonderful day. We'll talk again soon.